I want to start today's deep dive with just a little experiment. I want you to mentally transport yourself to a Tuesday afternoon. You're at work.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Right. So you're using some piece of enterprise software. Maybe you're trying to export a complex report, or you're trying to configure a new user profile, and you hit a wall.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not working. You get an error message, or maybe it's just a button that's completely grayed out for no reason.
The classic grayed out button mystery. I mean, I know it all too well.
Exactly. So the frustration starts to bubble up, right? You look at the top right corner of the screen, and you see that little question mark icon, the help button.
Yep.
Now, be honest with me. When you click that and the little search bar pops up, what is your immediate visceral reaction?
If I'm being totally honest, it's dread. It is just this feeling of, great, now I have to wade through 20 articles that have absolutely nothing to do with my problem.
Precisely. It's what we call the search bar of despair. Most of us, we don't even look at it. We instinctively look past the search bar for the contact us link or the phone number.
Or the open ticket button.
Yes, the open ticket button. We want to bypass the machine and get to a human because we have been trained, over decades that the machine just doesn't understand us.
Yeah, that's learned helplessness kicking in right there. We've been burned so many times by bad search experiences that we just assume failure before we even type a single word.
But here is the irony of the whole situation. Companies are absolutely desperate for you not to call them.
Oh, for sure.
They really want you to use that search bar. So today we have this fascinating set of source materials, a really deep case study that tackles this exact standoff. We are looking at a massive enterprise software company called NICE and their partnership with an AI company called SupportLogic.
And this is a really significant case study. It's not just about, fixing search. It is about a fundamental shift in how we interact with software in general. Mm. We're moving from the old era of keyword search to this new era of intent.
Right, intent. And they're doing this using something called precision RG. And our mission today is to figure out how this shift actually works and why it's saving companies millions.
Yeah, and we are going to get into the weeds of RG because unlike a lot of the AI buzzwords we hear thrown around, this one actually changes the core mechanics of how we get answers.
Definitely. But before we get to the solution, I think we really have to respect the problem. NICE isn't some small, scrappy startup. They are a massive enterprise software company. So what was the state of their support ecosystem before they started this massive overhaul?
It was, chaotic is probably the best word. And I really don't mean that as a slight against them. It is the standard state for almost any large company that has grown through years of acquisitions.
Right.
They were suffering from severe knowledge sprawl.
Knowledge sprawl. Paint the picture for us. What does that actually look like for a user on the ground?
So imagine you're a support agent or even a customer. You have a question. The answer technically exists somewhere, but it might be sitting in Salesforce, or it might be a PDF on some legacy portal from a company they bought 3 years ago.
Wow, okay.
Or it might be in a totally separate documentation site like MindTouch.
So the knowledge is entirely siloed. It's trapped in all these little pockets across the internet.
Right. From the sources we reviewed, NICE had something like 10 to 15 completely different repositories, and the only way to search them was using what they call federated search.
Which I have to say sounds incredibly impressive. Federated search. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It really does sound great on paper. The core idea is that one single search bar queries all those different databases at the exact same time. But in practice...
it's a mess.
Completely. Traditional federated search is just a blunt instrument. It is purely keyword-based.
This is the vocabulary mismatch problem we see all the time, right?
That's exactly it. If you go in and search for server failure, but the official document uses the phrase system outage, the search engine basically just says, sorry, I got nothing.
Or even worse, it returns 500 results because the word server appears in literally all of them.
Yep. And the actual document you need is hiding on page 4. And let's be real, nobody goes to page 4. Page 4 is the digital graveyard.
No one has ever visited page 4. So because the search was that unreliable, customers just stopped using it. They would just log a ticket. And this led NICE to a really startling statistic in our sources.
Oh, the 25% stat.
Yes. They analyzed their incoming support cases and found that 25% of them, literally 1 in 4, were solved by a support agent simply sending a link to an existing article.
Which is just staggering.
I want to linger on that for a second because it is a massive inefficiency. You have highly paid, highly technical support engineers, people who should be debugging complex code or solving architecture problems.
Right, the expensive talent.
Exactly. And they are spending a quarter of their day acting as human search engines.
Essentially, yes. The answer was public. It was written down. But the bridge between the customer and that answer was completely broken. The search bar failed, so the human had to step in and do what the software just couldn't.
And that brings us to the actual solution. NICE partnered with SupportLogic to implement Precision RA. Now, we hear RAG thrown around a lot in the tech space lately. It stands for Retrieval-Augmented Generation.
Yes, a bit of a mouthful.
It is. So treat us like smart people here, but break it down. What is actually happening under the hood that makes this Precision RA different from the old keyword search?
So I think the best analogy is to think about the difference between a traditional library catalog and a highly trained reference librarian.
Okay, I'm with you.
Old school search, the federated search we talked about, is the library catalog. You type in a subject, and it just gives you a list of book titles that match that exact word. It doesn't actually know what is inside the books. It just matches the metadata.
So you still have to go find the book, open it, read it, and see if it even helps.
Right, you're doing the heavy lift. Exactly. If you just ask a generic model like ChatGPT a question about a niche software error, it might just invent a totally plausible sounding but wrong answer. But with RAG, the AI is constrained. It can only build its answer using the specific facts retrieved from those trusted support documents.
So it's allowing for creativity, but within a very strict fact-based boundary.
Think of the prompt as saying, here are the established facts, now summarize them for the user. That is the core workflow.
But, thinking about this, it requires a pretty big shift in behavior from the user, doesn't it? Because we have all been trained over the years to talk to computers in this sort of caveman speak.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I just type error 404. I don't type a full paragraph to a search bar.
You've hit on a really fascinating point there. For this system to actually work, NICE needed their customers to do the exact opposite of what they usually do. They needed them to be verbose.
They wanted more text, not less.
Yes. In the world of large language models and semantic search, context is king. If you just type login into a search bar, the AI has no idea if you can't find the login page, or if you forgot your password, or if the login button is throwing an error code.
Right. But if I type, I am trying to log into the admin portal, but I keep getting a timeout error right after the two-factor authentication screen.
Then the AI actually has something to chew on. It understands the intent of the context behind the words. It is doing semantic matching now, not just keyword matching. So concepts like timeout and latency might be connected in the AI's brain, even if you don't use the exact terminology for the manual.
Okay, I love the tech, but here is the major snag. We just established a few minutes ago that users ignore the search bar. They have that learned helplessness.
Yeah, they go straight for the ticket.
Right, so you can build the smartest, most intent-driven search bar in the entire world, but if I completely skip it and click Open Ticket, it's useless. How did NICE actually solve the adoption problem?
This is hands down my favorite part of their whole strategy. They used what I like to call an interception technique.
Interception. I like the sound of that.
They realized pretty quickly that they couldn't force people to use the search bar on the homepage. Human habits are too ingrained. So instead of fighting it, they embedded the AI technology directly into the case creation workflow itself.
Walk us through that user journey. What happens?
So you're the frustrated user. You ignore all the helpful documentation. You click Open Ticket. You are presented with the standard form, right? Subject line, description box.
Yeah, the classic form.
You start typing your problem. You are venting. You are writing, I cannot believe this is broken again. I am trying to export the Q3 report, and the system just hangs at 90%.
I am giving them the whole long story because I fully expect a human being to read it and feel my pain.
Precisely. And you are inadvertently providing the absolute perfect, context-rich prompt for the AI. While you're typing all that out, SupportLogic's engine, which they call Resolve-SX, is running silently in the background. It takes that rich, angry description, runs the precision RX search across all those databases, and before you can even move your mouse to hit submit, it pops up a window.
So it effectively interrupts you right before you create the case.
It interrupts you with a highly accurate solution.
Yeah.
It essentially says, hey, based on everything you're typing right now, it looks like you're having a timeout issue with large exports. Here are the exact steps to increase your timeout limit.
That is just brilliant. It uses the user's natural desire to complain to a human as the mechanism to get the rich data needed for the AI to work.
It creates this sort of Trojan horse for self-service.
Yeah.
The user fully thinks they are emailing a support agent, but they are actually querying the knowledge base in the most effective way possible.
Okay, so let's talk about the results. Because this kind of technology isn't cheap. Implementing RAG across an entire enterprise, cleaning up the data, integrating it deeply into the workflow, that is a heavy lift.
Very heavy.
NICE had to prove the ROI to justify this. And I saw a number in our research materials that frankly made me pretty skeptical.
You're talking about the 3% number.
Yes. They set an initial target to deflect just 3% of incoming cases. Now, if I walked into a boardroom and said, hey, everyone, I have this amazing, highly expensive new AI project and it's going to reduce our workload by 3%, I feel like I'd be laughed out of the room. Why on earth was that their target?
I love that skepticism because in most consumer industries, 3% sounds like a rounding error. It sounds like nothing. But you really have to look at the unit economics of enterprise B2B support.
Break down the math for us on that.
A support ticket for a complex enterprise software product is not like a password reset for your Netflix account. It often involves a Tier 2 or even a Tier 3 technical engineer.
Right. These aren't entry-level roles.
Exactly. These are highly paid professionals. The industry estimate for the fully loaded cost of a single complex support ticket can range anywhere from $50 to over $100, and sometimes significantly more if the issue drags on for days or involves multiple engineers.
Okay, so every single ticket is expensive.
Very. And the sources note that 9C analyzes about 50,000 cases a month. So if they can deflect just 3% of those, there's roughly 1,500 cases. If you assume a conservative cost, you are looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in saved time and resources every single month.
So the volume and the cost are so high that a tiny sliver of deflection easily pays for the entire system.
Exactly. And remember that 25% stat we started with, the cases where agents were just forwarding links.
Right, the low-hanging fruit.
They don't need the AI to solve the hardest, most complex engineering architecture problems. They just need it to clear out those junk cases, the ones that shouldn't even be tickets in the first place. If they knock out that basic stuff, the ROI is massive.
But how do they actually measure it? This is always the tricky part with deflection metrics. How do you definitively prove that a person didn't submit a ticket because of the AI article? Maybe they just got a phone call and went to lunch.
That is the fuzzy math problem that plagues the industry. Usually, companies just look at basic page views and guess. They say, oh, page views went up, tickets went down slightly, it must be our new FAQ page.
Which is pretty weak evidence.
It is. But NICE got much more scientific with this deployment. They introduced a specific metric called the search session.
How does a search session work compared to a normal search?
Instead of counting individual keyword searches, they group a user's entire activity window into one session. So if I search for export, and then a minute later I search export error, and then report failure, all within a 5-minute window that is tracked as one single session.
Okay, that makes sense. It's one troubleshooting event.
Right. And if that session ends, and no case is created within a certain time window after, that is officially logged as a deflection. If a case is created, it's logged as a failure of the search.
That seems like a very fair, rigorous way to track it.
It is. And here is the really counterintuitive finding they discovered. In the world of marketing or typical web metrics, we usually want high engagement. We want more clicks, more searches, more time on page.
Right. Line goes up means good.
Exactly. But NICE found that with the precision RAG AI, the number of searches per session actually went down.
Which is actually a great thing, right? Because if the reference librarian hands me the exact right book immediately, I don't need to stay at the desk and ask 5 more questions.
You nailed it. A drop in search volume within a session was actually a strong signal of higher quality. Users were getting the right answer on the very first try. They call it zero-click resolution. It completely redefined what success looked like for their team.
I love that. I want to pivot now to the other side of this whole equation. We've talked a lot about the customer experience. We've talked about the balance sheet and the ROI. But what about the people actually doing the work, the support engineers themselves?
This is the internal revolution piece that we touched on earlier. And honestly, it is often the most underrated part of these AI deployments.
In our notes here, we have this concept of tribal knowledge. And I think we've all worked with a Bob at some point in our careers. Bob has been at the company for 10 years. Bob knows everything about the legacy code. If the server crashes on a Sunday night, you have to call Bob.
And let me tell you, Bob is exhausted.
Right, because every single time a new person is hired, they end up asking Bob the exact same 5 questions.
The underlying problem with tribal knowledge is that it is incredibly fragile. If Bob leaves the company or just takes a 2-week vacation, all that knowledge walks right out the door with him.
Yeah.
But getting Bob to actually write down everything he knows is incredibly difficult.
Why is that? Is Bob just trying to hoard his knowledge for job security?
Not usually, no. It's purely about friction. Bob is extremely busy fighting actual fires. He finishes debugging a complex, high-stress case at 5 p.m. The absolute last thing he wants to do is open up a blank Word document and write a perfectly formatted, grammatically correct, knowledge-based article about it.
It just feels like administrative overhead.
Exactly. It's a chore.
So how does the AI actually help Bob out here?
Nux is using the generative capabilities, specifically a tool called SupportLogic Assist, to automate that entire drafting process. The AI looks at the support case. Bob just spent 3 days closing. It reads the email threads with the customer. It reads the internal Slack messages, the technical case notes, all of it.
Okay.
And it automatically drafts the knowledge article form.
So it takes the chaotic mess of a 3-day troubleshooting ticket and turns it into a clean, step-by-step how-to guide.
Yes. It strips out all the pleasantries, the dead ends, the confusion, and just extracts the core problem and the final solution. So instead of staring at a blank page at 5 p.m., Bob just gets a notification that says, hey, I drafted a new article based on case 1234. Can you just review it?
That is a massive psychological shift because editing something that already exists is always so much easier than writing from scratch.
Significantly easier.
Yeah.
It moves the engineer from being a creator to simply being a reviewer.
Yeah.
It lowers the barrier to capturing that tribal knowledge so much that the knowledge base actually starts to stay up to date.
And that really closes the whole loop, doesn't it? Because if the knowledge base is constantly up to date with new solutions, the precision outage engine has better data to pull from, which means the customer gets better automated answers, which means fewer junk tickets end up on Bob's desk in the first place.
It is a perfect flywheel effect. But, and this is crucial, it only works if everyone actually trusts the system.
And that is always the final hurdle with this stuff, isn't it? Trust. Because I feel like right now we are at this weird tipping point with AI. Half the time I use it, I'm genuinely amazed, and the other half, I'm just rolling my eyes because some chatbot just told me to reboot my router for the 10th time.
We've all been there.
How did NICE gauge if people were actually trusting this new intercepted search?
They had to watch the adoption signals very, very closely. They didn't just turn the software on and walk away. They looked for that shift in the search sessions we talked about. Were more people engaging with the intercepted answer? Were they clicking the thumbs up or thumbs down feedback buttons?
It's a slow build. You earn trust in drops and you lose it in buckets.
That's very true. And one of the biggest ways they are cementing that trust long-term is by rolling this entire system out internally, too.
What do you mean by internally?
They're putting this exact same precision RAG search capability directly inside Salesforce Lightning, inside the tools their own employees use every day.
So the technical account manager, the professional services consultant, and the support engineer, they are all searching the exact same digital brain as the cloud. Right?
Exactly. That is the holy grail, the single source of truth. Because there is absolutely nothing more frustrating for a customer than finding an article online, following it, getting stuck, calling support, and having the agent say, I have never seen that article before.
Oh, that drives me completely crazy. I'm always like, I am looking at your own company's documentation right now.
Right. By unifying the search experience across the board, everyone, internal employees and external customers, is operating from the exact same reality. It builds confidence in the entire organization's competence.
Looking at everything we've covered, it really seems like the big takeaway here is that search just isn't a utility anymore. It's not just a little box in the corner of the website header that you ignore.
No, it's really the first line of defense for the entire customer experience. If you get search right, if you can successfully make that leap from matching dumb keywords to actually understanding human intent, you aren't just saving the company money on support tickets. You are fundamentally respecting the user's time.
You're acknowledging that they have a complex problem, and you're saying, hey, we are listening to your whole story. Even if it's a machine doing the listening, it's still hearing you.
And for any business leaders out there listening to this case study proves you don't need magic numbers or crazy moonshot goals to make AI work. You don't need to try and automate 100% of your workforce.
All right, they only aimed for 3%.
Exactly. You just need to look for those specific inefficiencies, like the 25% of tickets that were just link forwarding, and apply the right technological tool to that specific wedge.
So here is my challenge to everyone listening right now. The next time you are stuck in software purgatory at work and you instinctively go to open a ticket, just pause for a second. If you see that search bar or if the system pops up a suggestion while you are rage typing your description, give it a shot.
Test the librarian, see what they bring back.
Exactly. See if the machine is finally ready to understand your whole story and not just your keywords. It might just save you a frustrating phone call. Well, thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Catch you on the next one.